Hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. We're taking another look at Matic. Now we're just going to dive into the technical data here to go ahead and take a look at some good entry points and obviously see what's going on here because there was a recent price increase. So thank you to my community for reaching out and asking me to go ahead and cover this. Just know I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should always do your own research. Also, there's a link in the description below for my Telegram community, as well as a Patreon account if you'd like to reference that and consider helping, as well as the fact that there is $25 in Bitcoin from Voyager. All in the description below, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get right to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Matic. And what we're going to do, we're just going to take a quick gander at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to make sure we understand just generally what's going on in the market, what's causing the prices to increase the way that it is, and see if there's any correlation. But nonetheless, just kind of get a baseline so we know roughly what's going on. Now, first thing I always look at is Bitcoin, of course. So let's just go ahead and take a look there. And I always like to look at the 4-hour chart first, just to ensure we could look at the the right indicators, because the moving averages, the 50, 100, and 200-day moving averages are the most effective on this time scale. In my opinion, they've worked well for me in the past, so that's why I like to look at that here. So just get quick perspective, of course, with the price. We're looking at, it's about 57,400 right now, which is much better than it was roughly a day ago when we had that dip from yesterday. So good news is the price is up over the resistance and support level of 57,000. That's a great sign. Plus the 200 and 50-day moving average are also right around that point. So we should have a pretty strong support level there. At least that's the hope. Also, the 100-day moving average was working as a support level with a decently large variance. But all in all, these three moving averages might just intersect soon and create like a super support. It does happen sometimes. Nonetheless, price is right around 57,400. Nothing too crazy here to report. Pretty standard normal stuff from Bitcoin. Just a pretty good increase back up. And the hope is for the price to stay up above 57,000 for at least a few more days and then to go up and test. By the way, let me mark this again. There is a resistance line at about 59,400. So that'll be the next major milestone that we need to pay attention to. Okay, so hopefully it comes up there, tests it, and breaks through, because it has been tested a good 5, 6, 7 times now. So the more times you test a support or a resistance line, the more likely it is to break. Keep that in mind. So that is Bitcoin. Moving on to Ethereum. I like to just show this really quick as well to kind of compare the difference between the two. Now with Ethereum, what's nice about it, in case you don't already know this, I say this in all my videos, is that when Bitcoin drops down, most people that are invested in Bitcoin decide to take their money and put it into Ethereum. At least it seems to be a common trend. So that being said, you can see why the price has increased so much, because Bitcoin had 3 major sell-offs here in April, and the price has ramped up ever since then. And the main reason why is because Bitcoin has a state of indecision. Why not go to the next major altcoin, which is Ethereum? Okay, so you can kind of anticipate anytime Bitcoin has a sell-off, Ethereum will likely spike thereafter. Just something to note. That is how that works. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Matic. And I did cover this, I think a couple days ago, right? And when we looked previously, I think it was right in this channel here, ready to ramp up. And I did mark a few support and resistance levels. So we'll look at that here again in a moment. First thing I like to do, of course, is get perspective on big picture. So we always look at the one-day chart so we know specifically what's going on. Same reason we look at Bitcoin, right? We kind of understand what's causing the market to shift. Now it doesn't look like much is going on here as far as Bitcoin influencing this, but Bitcoin increasing and being a little more steady on the price movement leads me to believe that's the reason why we are seeing an increase in Matic essentially at this point, because the last 2 days have been pretty solid and green, whereas the day before, when Bitcoin essentially selling off, it had a state of indecision. So that's a good sign here. If Bitcoin can continue, Matic will also follow suit. As per usual with most altcoins, right? For the most part, that's what happens. So taking a look here, let's go ahead and see. So first of all, let me turn that off and turn on the moving averages. And just to note, the same scenario as before, the 50-day moving average is working as a strong support level. It's working its way up. It may not catch up for a while, but just know the moving average, currently the 50-day moving average is working as a pretty consistent support level. So I'd be interested to see what happens the next week or two when it catches up. Also, to keep in mind as well, the moving averages, the 100 and 200 day are not going to matter for a little while. Right now, they're kind of just slowly catching up, so we don't need to really worry about those for now, but traditionally, the 200 and 100 day moving averages are very strong on the 1-day chart. Okay, again, just something to know for future reference. Also, bear in mind we did have price in volume recently. That makes perfect sense. But the price increased significantly yesterday with a fairly small volume bar. So, that can tell us that the bears have essentially conceded and have pretty much just given up and just waiting for the price action to reverse. Pay attention to the volume. Volume speaks loudly, and it's a very subtle thing that people don't really pick up on. But when you see a massive increase like what we just saw recently and a low volume bar, that does tell you that it was just only bulls making an investment. They're the only ones buying right now. So it basically just means that the bears are waiting for the calm, things to calm down before they start investing, because they're going to get pushed out of the way anyways. Basically, it means that they have a lot of exhaustion and they're not really willing to contribute right now because they're just going to get rejected anyways. That's usually a good sign that really tells us a lot about bullish momentum and the fact that the bulls are essentially in control, mostly because the bears have just kind of given up, for lack of better terms. Okay, just something to note. Also RSI as well, creeping up over 70 right now, so it is trending towards overbought. Again, I don't put a lot of weight into the 1-day chart, the RSI on the 1-day chart, but it does kind of give us an overall sentiment that it is getting closer to its highest point. Not to say that the price won't continue to increase, it just means that the price has been pretty high consistently lately, that there may be a potential retracement, which we'll look closer here. That's might be what's happening already, but that is essentially what you're looking at there. So nothing too crazy here. What I'll do is I'll take this previous high and stretch it out. That could be our next support level, but we probably have a support somewhere in here too. We'll take a look at that next. All right. So on to the 4-hour chart. Obviously, we got some previous support and resistance lines that are very well gone right now, so we can probably get rid of that. I don't believe the price will come back down there. If it does, we can remark that later. Because for now, what's going on right now is we got these two major support levels. One was a previous all-time high. This one is a recent all-time high. And correct me if I'm wrong, it is the all-time high, right? Okay. Sometimes people call me out on not saying the right all-time high, so I apologize if I ever mistake that. I go with the most recent all-time high. 3 years ago sometimes doesn't exactly have a strong impact. Sometimes it does, but in this case, we're in good shape. That being said, let's go ahead and mark the support level here. And just a note too, let me actually zoom in. You can kind of see this line here. So do you see where this peaked out right here? And this guy also closed right there. That tells us that's a pretty strong support level, or was a previous resistance and is now a support, where the price likely broke through right here. So it's safe to say right around $1.06 roughly is a potential support level now, whereas we have a secondary and tertiary support levels down at 94 cents, as well as about 87 cents, right in that range. So all in all, looking pretty good. I like the way this looks right now. It does make a lot of sense. I would foresee I can't foresee the future, but the trend, the way things are going just on the 1 day and the 4-hour chart, it does look bullish. It does look good. It doesn't have a ton of, it doesn't look to be overbought yet, so I think that's a good sign. Because even though the RSI is coming up over here, we'll look at the 15-minute chart soon to see, but I'm not concerned with that based on the fact that there was a consolidation and a retracement prior to this initial jump. So that tells me we're in probably pretty good shape now. Looking at the 15-minute chart, this will really tell us the most. I know it kind of looks a little messy. Let me go ahead and clean this up here. Turn on the EMA. And looking at the RSI, also very nice. It's still under 70, and as you can see, when it peaked up over here a couple of times to hit its all-time high of $1.17, there was a slight retracement, not major. Really, I mean, it was only like 8 cents. So I mean, it's somewhere in the range of 6%. So not all bad. Why don't we go and mark that guy as well, just so we know what we're working with here. And that is the resistance at about, roughly, actually closer to 118. So 118 was tested twice, almost the third time rejected. The more times it continues to try to test this, bear in mind, the more likely it is to break. So if this can come up and continue to test, stay above the EMA line, then we're looking to be pretty good shape for it to break above and potentially stay above. Now, it's not a guarantee if it breaks above that it will stay above, but it's more likely to stay above after it breaks because it's, after it's been tested multiple times, right? Because the more often you test something, the more likely it is to break, and in turn it becomes a much stronger support if it flips from resistance to a support. Okay. Now, other than that, looking at the VWAP, the price is a little overextended, but it's not terrible. Let's see what that difference is. 7.8. Okay, that's right in the range of being potentially uncomfortable. So I wouldn't be surprised if the price comes up here, if it comes up quickly and it gets rejected again, just because of the fact that the momentum is a little too high, a little too quick. But again, it just depends. Now, the thing I like to note, and I like to mention this in all my videos, so I do apologize if you've heard this before, but thank you if you're watching again. That's a plus, right? But when it comes to, just say, RSI being overextended and a variation between VWAP, first of all, the volume weighted average price tells us the average volume of the last 24 hours as a price. So this blue line we see here, that's what the price should be at based on the volume in the last day, the last 24 hours. So it should be at 106. Price hovering around 114 is not terrible, but when you see here this difference of 118 from 103, that was a 13.35% increase in price. In other words, the price was 13% higher than where it should have been, so that's why it retraced back down. Okay, and I'm willing to bet if we look at the RSI, it was above 70 at this point. All right, so a lot of times we can look at the RSI and see if it's over 70. That's a good indication that it might be a potential sell signal. You want to be careful, of course, because sometimes the price can keep going up. It's making higher highs and higher lows. That can essentially, leave you high and dry if you take your profit and don't get back in. But in this scenario here, if we look at, the overall price action, without it passing that resistance level just yet, we should have room for the volume weighted average price to catch up. So I'm hoping that the VWAP will continue to press upwards, work as a support, and the line will kind of squeeze into a wedge pattern and break upwards. That's more likely to happen, especially if the price, when there's an upward wedge pattern, it can break upwards more likely. I'll draw that here in a moment, but that's essentially kind of what we're hoping for. But yeah, that being said, the VWAP, just pay attention to the VWAP. It's an important indicator. And if there's a large variance between the price action and the VWAP, there's commonly going to be a retracement or some type of correction. It may not be significant, but in this case it was, I would say, maybe some of the range of 6 or 7%. All right, so let's go ahead and see if we can get something together here. So looking at this here, kind of see what's going on there now. If you connect these two, I know there's a lot of lines here, I apologize. We connect those two, in fact we could probably get rid of this previous support, and since that's so far down, and we look at this pattern here, that's essentially a, I guess, I'm not sure the term for it, I think it's like upward wedge or reverse wedge, but anytime you got like a wedge pattern, the price could work itself into this channel, and just potentially the VWAP will work its way up as well. And if that does happen, and the price kind of works itself into this little corner, then one of two things will happen. It'll either break up or break down. Now, commonly they break up more so than down because the wedge is driving upwards, right? It's continuing that momentum. And the reason why it will do that is because it's consolidating into this channel and eventually has a breakout in price once the RSI and the VWAP essentially averages out. right? Because again, the average volume will be averaging out as a price, as well as the RSI will be calming down to likely something under 70. So that's the hope, right? Of course, I would love for it to break out right now and keep going, but it's almost better that it channels and then breaks out, because then we have more of a consolidation period, and it allows the bull runs to last longer. Because if you've ever seen like a bull run, like I'm trying to think of, what is it, Ethereum Classic? I think that one recently did that, where it increased significantly so quickly over just the course of 4 or 5 days, and it had no periods of consolidation or very little. It eventually hit its max capacity and just shot back down, went from like 180 to 100 even. Now it's averaging around 110 or something, but it did that because it didn't have enough consolidation, enough time for the averages to catch up. So looking at that here, that's essentially what I'm guessing will happen. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but I can tell you that it's forming a good pattern here. I like this. This is comfortable. This is nice. So just pay attention to that. The last thing I want to do is maybe take a look at the 1 minute chart, just to kind of see what the price action is looking like. And what's nice about this, because I have the EMA 15 on, by the way, that's my favorite. It's my favorite moving average. It's an exponential moving average, because a lot of like trading platforms, they'll do a 9 and a 20. So I just split the difference, use the 15. It seems to be a much better average for me personally, because then you don't have these two crazy lines. You just have one right in the middle. It's kind of essentially better average. So it works out really well, and the reason why it's helpful is because it tells you, momentum. In other words, it's exponential moving average. So instead of over the course of days, it's kind of condensed, and it really helps you understand a little bit more. So as you can kind of see here, when the price breaks above, and I'll try to get closer, it has a tendency of staying above and keeping this momentum, right? So you see here, bearish, 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 and then once it breaks above, more bullish. And I like this because it's a really good indication of kind of what the momentum is heading. And I like to look for at least 3 solid green bars, which are, again, on the 1 minute chart is essentially 3 minutes, right? So if we kind of look at an example here of what to pay attention to, if we see we got these three lines right here, these 3 would be the ones to look out for, to maybe consider taking entry at that point. That's usually what I look for. Again, they're closing above the EMA line, and they are essentially momentumous trend. In other words, if you look at this here, it's essentially the way to find the bottom. So instead of chasing the bottom and just keep to buy in when you feel like the price is low, if you use the EMA line, it really helps you understand that the momentum is shifted, because if the price comes above it for at least 3 to 5 minutes, then it usually will stay in that direction for a while. Again, sometimes consolidation patterns will just kind of go up and down at random, but for the most part, when you have this going on, the price is trying to establish itself, you'll see that happen a lot. So the price being overview up is good, as well as the fact that it's above the EMA line. That would be a case in point to take entry. So you take entry right here. See if we could do that here. Just draw a quick line. And then you see you got this, and what's nice too, look at that, it tested it 3 times. It comes up and it comes back down and tests the EMA line, and it rejects. In other words, it keeps going. So that's the beautiful thing. So if you just say you take a position right here and it comes up and does this little pattern, and if as soon as you see it bounce off the EMA line, then you're in good shape. You can probably even likely add to your position, because this is a bullish momentous trend, right? So again, just something to note, kind of add that to your portfolio, so to speak, or your trading knowledge, because those are things that I look for. I like to have 2 15-minute green bars on the 15-minute chart, of course, and then at least 3 1-minute green bars above the EMA line, again, the EMA 15 on the 1-minute chart. I typically don't bother with Fibonacci retracement tool. I use that on occasion to add to just kind of speculation of what's going on. In fact, we can do this right now just so you kind of see, because this is the bottom of the retracement period here on the 1-minute chart. And you can kind of see the support and resistance levels, right? You got resistance, support, resistance, and potential support right here. Okay, so it could bounce off this EMA line, we'll see, but it could also reject and stay below. It does look like there's a bit of a sell-off. This is kind of what we want too. Again, we want to have this consolidation period occurring until it breaks that, kind of breaks above that wedge pattern and gets us a breakout. So if this continues on and you see this working itself into a funnel, and it's what, I would say, that's approximately 15 minutes, so somewhere in the range of 3 to 4 hours from now, there's a chance that it could break up again or down. If it breaks down, keep this in mind, we have this support level working for us right at about 106. So if you're going to consider taking entry after it breaks down, wait for it to come down and test that support level, and then consider taking entry at that point. If it breaks above, wait for it to confirm, stay above for at least, I would say, no less than 30 minutes on the 50-minute chart to confirm that you have that that confirmation, because a lot of times when price breaks above a resistance level, it'll either shoot through it or it'll come up, test it, come down and bounce off of it and go again. So try to pay attention to that as well. Again, I'll have more training videos moving forward regarding these things, these scenarios, so we can try to do that a little bit more effectively. I'm also working on a consideration for long-term, big picture. I'd like to have some live trading going on too. But initially, between now and then, I will do some live streams so we can at least analyze on the go, and you can request and make your request. We'll get that eventually soon. Okay, working on that. But for now, I hope this is beneficial for you. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and consider, of course, joining the Telegram community or contributing to my Patreon as well. All good things. We're all here to learn together and grow together. So really appreciate you joining me and watching this far if you have. And just have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.